Ari Tulla, welcome to the Biohacking Secrets Show.
Thank you, Anthony. Great to be here.
For our listeners who aren't as familiar, well, let me take a step back. I'm getting ahead of myself. We're going to be talking about how you've been one of the original gangsters of biohacking and in this space for a long time. We're going to talk about some of the biggest issues with the U.S. Sick care system, food as medicine, how to stay at your peak performance, and really putting your biomarkers to work for you, and like using advanced diagnostics and data points in order to optimize your physical and mental potential. But before we get into all that, for our listeners who might not be as familiar with you and your work, maybe you can give us a little bit of background and how you got into this mess.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to. So I've been an entrepreneur, a technologist all my life. I got into the tech very early. When I was, 14, 15 years old, I was one of the early people in the world playing video games and making money.
Oh, really?
That was cool. I was playing the first online games that, nobody remembers anymore, before Ultima Online, before World of Warcraft. So I was, one of the top players in the world, and I was creating, virtual goods, swords and armor, and selling them for real money. So my mom and Pop thought that I was a drug dealer, of course, but no, I was only selling goods before we knew what the golden.
Yeah.
And that kind of got me into tech and the web and so forth. And later I spent quite a long stint at Nokia. Some people might remember the small company from Finland making phones.
Yeah.
Now they make networks and stuff. But
Snake,
I was in a
Snake
team.
was like the best game to play in school when you didn't want to get caught.
So it's a funny story because I actually know the person who created Snake. He's an old Nokia engineer.
No way.
I was running the Nokia's game studios for quite a few years. So we created many games.
Well, give him a fist bump for me. He's gotten many hours of my life.
I think we all can claim the same. But it was really fun to kind of be part of that. But at Nokia, I really kind of got into this idea that we can quantify our body in a new way. So there's this fun story in a way that I was in a team with people thinking about what can we do with these phones. These were, by the way, the phones we called at Nokia mobile computers. We didn't say smartphone. I don't know why, we were silly. But these mobile computers like Nokia N95, Nokia N series, and so forth, the Symbian phones. And the team was kind of looking at one of the phones, and it had this sensor in the phone that was turning the photos from landscape to portrait. Remember the time when you had a camera, you had to always tilt them again. Super annoying.
Yeah.
So they added that chip there to know if the phone is landscape or portrait mode. Anyway, the guys, the engineers, they found about this, then they hacked an API, a link to control that chip.
Yeah.
And one of the first things they developed was a step counter. And that step counter is in many ways kind of beginning of this whole biohacking movement that we have today. And what we did at Nokia, we developed this step counter feature, and then that chip went into every phone that had a camera. So we sold 450 million phones a year with the step counter inbuilt. And it was really cool to see, like, as an example, I was visiting India one time and looking at the data from there. In Calcutta, everybody had a phone, even in the slums. And they used the phone even there to track the steps. And you could hear this da-da, the 10,000 steps sound happening all around you. So it was pretty cool to kind of understand that, that small thing started something that, millions of people, maybe hundreds of millions of people do today, every day, which is tracking your movement, tracking your body, and so forth. So it's just cool to
really
see
cool
what has happened in the last 20 years.
That's kind of like how the door first cracked open, which is now, blown wide open and then some. Do you remember, just out of curiosity, like when that step counter was first developed, do you remember how many steps you were getting when you first started using it in that capacity?
So I was in the room when the teams were developing the number of steps, but I remember the story later. It's been told by many people, I think, but it was some Japanese research that said that 10,000 steps is the right amount for people to walk a day.
Yeah.
And I think today we still debate about it. Maybe it's 7,428. But 10,000 is the right, nice number, enough comma in the middle and so forth. But for me, we don't really walk that much on everyday life necessarily. And I think, we all have changed the habit. If you track yourself, you think about, like, maybe I take a walk to the store. Maybe I do this and that. And I've been an athlete all my life, and walking I was rather running or cycling or going hard.
Mm-hmm.
But today, I mean, I walk likely more than 10,000 steps every day. I do almost every day. I do a meeting out here in San Francisco in Presidio. Go take a walk, and I have this one walk I do with everybody. And it's a beautiful walk in only national park in the city boundaries that we have here in the country. And it takes an hour, and that's my go-to. So today, I believe in this idea that not only walking is good for you, but going to the nature once a day and go maybe hug a tree or something and take the tree pheromones in you.
I love it. Now, your nationality, are you from Finland?
Yeah, I'm from Finland originally, and I've been living around the world for the last about 25 years.
Yeah.
And last 15 years in San Francisco.
Oh, nice. I'm good friends with Teemu and the guys who wrote the Biohacker's Handbook, and I've spoke at their event twice. And they're amazing dudes. And I love that walking meeting. It's like, hey, you want to attend the meeting? You're going to walk for an hour. We're going to get some sun. We're going to get some fresh air. I feel like much more robust and creative ideas come to me when I'm walking and moving around. Unfortunately, I can't do it while I'm podcasting, but, you make the best of it. But yeah, I'm sort of the same way. Before we kind of transition off of, we're going to kind of dance back and forth with smart tech this whole episode, but you were kind of one of the original biohackers. You got into this really early on, and I understand the application with, Nokia and the step counter and how that impacted you. On the personal side of biohacking, what were some of the things that you started playing around with early on? And you've talked about hugging trees and time in nature and walking meetings already. But I'm curious, like, if you go back, what has your biohacker evolution kind of looked like?
Well, I had a even earlier touch up with this topic. As every good Finn, Finland very north, a lot of snow in winter.
Yeah,
you do Nordic skiing. That's the only thing we're good at. Maybe hockey a little bit.
You guys are really good at sauna and cold plunge too.
Well, that's given. That we own. It was helping us kids to train better in the winter. And he was the guy who invented polar electro, and he invented the heart rate monitor.
No kidding.
And he started the company Polar Electro.
I feel like he's probably in a better financial position than the guy that invented Snake.
He's known to do okay, but he's a professor, very quirky guy, fairly old already. But he basically gave us those heart rate meters. This was like long the 80s, and we didn't know what to do with them. The craps, it was like the beta versions. And we were using them, and it was really kind of eye-opening. So for me, always it has been the first thing has been the heart rate. I got into it, and I always had a Polar Electro strap when I was training.
Yeah, I've had a ton of them.
Today, I think a heart rate I don't think it's that valuable. I'm much bigger believer of HRV today, and because of being at Nokia, knowing these people, because many of the people who are now developing wearable devices, they used to work at Nokia or Samsung or Apple or Google or somewhere. And I got to know a lot of these people. And one of the groups that I met and I really developed relationship with was the guys who founded Oura.
Oh, yeah.
And I was one of the early investors in Oura.
Yeah.
We're lucky in the early rounds. And I've been wearing my Oura ring now for 7 years, every night. So I have a pretty unique data set. And I had the bulky one and the bigger, even bulkier one, the early version. And that was, I think, the device that made me open my eyes about the possibilities. And I started to investigate more, not only tracking, the activity and the movement and the sleep and the heart, but really tracking what's inside us. And I got really compelled about starting to test my blood biomarkers. And I'd done, urine, the poop, the hair follicles, sweat, and so forth. And that became really one of the themes of my life in a way that 11 years ago, I went from the tech and the gaming into healthcare. and started to really think about like, what can we do with data, and how can we make us healthier, and not just healthier, but have a healthier health span, and how can we live 50 years of awesome life and then die in with our boots, or maybe we can live 150 years, but that is still maybe a little bit further away.
Yeah.
But for me, it's always been kind of like starting from the kind of the external and then getting more and more into the internal factors. So I have I have a Whoop, I have an Apple Watch, I have a Oura Ring, I have a glucose monitor right now.
Okay.
And I couldn't live with this anymore. I mean, I don't need to look at the data all the time because I've been tracking for so long, but it gives me this reliance. Like if I travel, I get sick, I can see immediately that, hey, now you have to take easy. You don't want to train too hard because you are not recovered properly, for example.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you get your HRV from the Whoop and the Oura Ring and the Apple Watch, huh?
Apple Watch, you don't really have HRV in a detail level at the moment, but you can get it from Oura and Whoop, and some days they are a bit different, but most days they do correlate really well.
That's what I was going to ask next. Okay, that's fascinating. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Elite HRV as well, and use that.
Yeah.
Before we kind of transition to the healthcare system and some of the things that you're doing to help people take control of their health and performance, what was one or some of your biggest insights, and more importantly, behavior modifications that have come from you wearing either the Oura Ring or the Whoop band?
I talk more about the Oura because I love the guys, and I think it's the best device today in the market.
Yeah.
And also, I have such a long history knowing where they came from, who are the people building these things. So a lot of my friends are still working there. But really what I learned, and I think if you think about your health as a whole, it is a combination of your nutrition, what you put in you, your recovery and sleep, and then also your activity, exercise, the stressors. Those are the three things. And maybe in the second one, you can also add mindfulness. We have many words for this, but it's pretty simple in the end. So I think for me, the biggest learning has been able to collect the data from my recovery and my sleep. So I really have spent a lot of time thinking about sleep. And I think if you think about what matters, you can be maybe 3 weeks without food if you get drinks and some electrolytes. But if you don't sleep for 3 days, you die.
3 days?
Sleep is maybe the most around. Yeah, maybe sleep is maybe the most important thing in your life. So you have to really think about this. Like, what can I do to sleep better, recover better, feel better in the morning, performing mentally and physically? So I started to stop eating after 7 p.m. I started to do certain supplementation, even like mainly magnesium, for example. I stopped alcohol pretty much completely years ago at the evening. I mean, I do a glass of wine often at like 5 p.m. or 4 p.m. before dinner. And then I have pretty, cool environment. I have very specific, bedding and bed and all these things. It's pitch dark always. And I usually always take a hot shower before I go to bed because you just sleep faster when you have this effect of more blood on your outer body. So those are some of the things that I have done, and I've been talking about it quite a bit, and a lot of people applied what I have done, and I think they just feel better because every night almost I get 90, 95 score on Oura.
Nice.
And that's important for me.
Nice. Yeah, that's impressive. What form of magnesium do you go with? Glycinate?
Yes.
Yes.
And in the form of a gel. It's a specific brand. I can send you later.
Yeah, that'd be cool. We'll see if we can.
I've been really happy about that product, and it really you can feel it. It's one of these things that often you do a nutritional supplement product, you don't really know, but this one you feel calming effect, almost like deep meditative state, and you fall in sleep faster. But you can't do it every night or year. You have to circulate on and off. If you do it a quarter or two, you don't feel it anymore. And I like when I do things, I like to feel them properly.
Totally.
And I think the thing here is that, older guys, we don't feel anything. Inside, like we don't know if we are thirsty or hungry. So I've been trying to be very self-aware But I find it that maybe my reptile nervous system, my brain, it doesn't function like my wife's, who is super centered and she can feel everything. Like, oh, my kidney is itching. I'm like, I need beer. But I mean, it's kind of tough to do this because I want to be more aware, but sometimes hard. And that's why, when I find products that I can use and I feel it, I'm like, wow, that's something unique.
That's pretty cool. You said it's a gel?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Interesting. I'll see. We'll connect after and I'll see if I can put that in the show notes. All right. So now let's kind of take this to, I think that's a fascinating background and you have a very unique perspective because, you've been in the United States, you spent time in Finland. How would you sort of describe the current U.S. healthcare system or sick care system, whatever vernacular you prefer?
I think sick care is a very right way to put it, because as you might know, that we spend today 2.9% of the 4 trillion on preventative medicine. 2.9%. And that 2.9% is, it's a lot of money, but it mainly is going into vaccinations, mammographies, and preventive screening. So we don't really do a lot at all related to really helping people stay healthy. So that whole lack of focus on prevention is, in my opinion, the number one problem. The second problem I think that we have, that we all I think know, is that the incentives are misaligned. Mm-hmm. So you basically have this trifecta. You have hospitals and doctors giving care. You have payers. They can be you pay PPO, Blues, or United Healthcare, or they can be Medicare, Medicaid, or whatever you have.
Right.
And then thirdly, you have the big pharma and medical device makers. Mm-hmm. So they're all massively big. Mm-hmm. They all are over $1 trillion revenue. Mm-hmm. And they're all basically pulling apart from each other. They don't work in a unison at all. Right. It's a very, very difficult problem. And just, express the cost every year today. And then the access to care. We spend 4 trillion, yet we still have millions of people who can't access to care. And I mean, if you have had a health scare and you have a PPO plan and you think that I have a really good health care and I can go to any doctor I want, good luck finding the right doctor. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the areas I spent the last 10 years working on in 2 companies. And one, I think the number that is really intriguing that I often say very few people understand or know this before. How much we spend in the world in healthcare? About 10 trillion.
Is that annually?
We spend annually, the global spend. We spend 40% of that in the US. 40%.
But we're the best. We're the healthiest.
Well, we only have 4% of people, and we spend 40% of the healthcare costs. Yet we are still I think the number is like 45 or something in the healthiest country list. So we have something really going wrong here today. And I think what we should do, we need to all take responsibility more ourselves and not expect somebody to come and help us. And I think we need to get that nose thing that you're using right now for everybody. That will solve the problem, I think.
Yeah. I just popped in a couple of Violites. I popped in the 655 nanometer red and the 810 infrared. One's more for mitochondrial health and reducing inflammation and recovery. The other one's a little bit more for cognitive performance. Did you say that? So 10 trillion per year, yeah. And then the U.S. has 4% of the world's population, yet we spend 40% of that 10 trillion.
Exactly.
That's a nightmare.
But think about that. Like, you can take any other industry and you compare the same way. Healthcare is the only outlier. It's like a mountain of outliers.
Yeah.
So that's just something that, people talk about this. We need to maybe make the Obamacare a bit better. I think we have to burn the house down. And we
do. Oh, man. All right. We're just hemorrhaging money on sick people. Okay. So what do we do about it? Well, the other thing that I wanted to add on, too, I thought you brought up some great points there with access to care and how the incentives are misaligned. I would also say that the very framework upon which doctors are expected to operate and see patients, like the time that they are limited to, 10, sometimes even 7 minutes per appointment, and then it's rarely more than 20. You can't do much in that amount of time besides throw medication at it or schedule them for a surgery. That's a problem, in my opinion.
That's a problem. And I think the time is dictated by the way we pay the fee-for-service model, where you have certain amount of time to take care of people. You get paid only a certain amount. So that is kind of making the system work in a way. But you asked a good question, like what to do about it. I mean, it's a very complicated problem. Maybe the most difficult single problem we have, together with the climate change and maybe these wars that are popping up here and there.
Especially because there's a lot of people that are in charge of it that don't want to burn it down. They like it the way it is. They might have even consciously designed it the way it is.
Well, this is the thing, like, a lot of people are saying that, there's like evil people in the pharma out there, bad people in the healthcare insurance companies. And I work with a lot of those people. They are all good, meaning, great people mainly.
Yeah.
And the problem is,
I haven't met any gremlins in the industry.
No, I never seen any, like, there are very few gremlins. Maybe you don't, no water at night or whatever. So you have to be careful about that at the time of day. But
like a mogwai.
But the point is that, you basically what you have to do, I think, and what we all have to do, and I think what you are preaching, I think, is a really important point, where if we can measure something, we can improve it. Mm-hmm. And I think measuring about your health is the beginning of improving it. Because if we can't measure, like, how could you know? You don't know what to do. So that is, in my opinion, the biggest problem that, if we don't measure, and like you said, the healthcare system today is like a 1 5-minute visit a year. I mean, that's like worst way to measure anything.
Yeah.
The doctor barely knows you pay. Like, who's this guy? I've seen this guy before, but I don't know I don't know anything. Like, then they read the computer and, there's like, it doesn't work. And then the other point I think healthcare that we need to fix is that healthcare and health is mainly data today. It's a data business. Mm-hmm. And the whole system is it's like the opposite of data, how they operate. Like, a doctor looks at the chart. They can't comprehend, when you bring them DNA data, you can bring them, your Oura data.
Yeah.
They have no idea.
What am I supposed to do with this?
We have to get the computer. We have to get the data to the cloud. We have to get, AI to, use it. And there has to be like a support network for doctors and nurses and caregivers, which is basically an AI that can digest the data and then they can make a decision supported by AI. That has to happen. And it's already happening a bit. But we are in the infancy still.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'm a big believer in labs and diagnostics, whether that's blood, saliva, stool, the tears of our enemies. The wide variety of different types of bodily fluid samples that can be beneficial. But one of the things that I really love that you're doing with Elo.health is you guys are basically giving away a blood test so that people could start getting access to these biometrics, start getting an idea of what's going on inside their body. And then from there, go down the path of like personalizing their nutrition and supplementation and addressing certain deficiencies and excesses and all of the things that sort of interweave with optimal health and performance. So before I kind of turn it over to you, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about that blood test, why those what diagnostic data points you chose, why those are important. But guys, if you're listening to this and you're getting value from this conversation, first and foremost, share it up, share it on social media, send it to your friends, family members, people that you work with. And then if you want to jump on that free blood test, you can go to elo.health and then enter discount code biohacking secrets. You guys all know how to spell. And you can get a free blood test so that you can start gathering these data points and then making the necessary optimizations. So, Ari, maybe you could tell us a little bit about that test, what data points you chose, why you chose them, and why that's a critical first step in this biohacking journey.
Yeah. So I think we have spent now a few years on developing the company, developing the service. And the whole idea of what we're trying to do is to try to turn food from the cause of disease. Most of the healthcare dollars we spend today are spent because of the bad diet and lifestyle. We know that. We want to turn the food from the cause of disease to medicine. And that's, I think, a very noble goal. And, it's an old idea, thousands of years old idea.
Hippocrates, I believe.
And we are calling this thing we call it smart nutrition. So smart nutrition is a concept that we are trying to make your nutrition personal. We try to make it precise, scientifically validated, and we try to make it proactive, so it gets better all the time. That's a really lofty goal, and we have done some good inroads in the last couple of years on that. So to your question, what we do, here's the Elo biomarker kit that we are sending to people at home. It's a classic finger prick. So you prick your finger, you bleed around 6 drops of blood, you zip it back to our lab, we test it. Today, in this version, we are doing blood biomarkers. We do the lipid panel, think about the cholesterol, LDL, triglycerides, HDL, and so forth. We also look at your inflammation. It's a really critical piece to learn if you have inflammation in your body to understand what can we do about it. We do homocysteine for inflammation. We also are testing the diabetes marker, A1C, to understand if you are you good, are you pre-diabetic, or are you diabetic? And then we also throw in the mix some of the key minerals, vitamins like iron, ferritin, B12, D vitamin. And that is a pretty holistic view into your health. And we do that test because we want to have a baseline. And if you go look at your medical record today, even if you have a good health plan, even if you go to some concierge doctor, they don't always do all these tests every year. Mm-hmm. What we do at Elo, we do them every 90 days. So we keep tracking you every 90 days. And what we are trying to do is to move you from the yellow and the red into the green. Mm-hmm. And having these baseline metrics in check is not guaranteed that you're going to live longer, but at least get the basics right. And what we do at Elo, so we take that data. What we also do, we connect to all your wearable devices. So I connect my Apple Watch, my Oura Ring, my Whoop, my scale, and so forth into Apple Health. And then I connected Apple Health into Elo. So Elo is seeing my data in real time. And that information is then compiled together, and AI is turning it into the right nutrition for you. The first product we launched earlier this year is supplements, smart supplements that are coming to you in a daily package with your name on. And they are made to improve your biomarkers and help you achieve your goals, whatever they are. Could be better sleep, it could be mental acuity, it could be sport performance, or whatever you want to go. And we also throw in the mix a dietitian. So we have registered dietitians who work one-on-one with every member to really understand what can be done to help you. And that piece, I think, has been the most surprising to me, how powerful it has been when you have a really professional nutrition expert working with you and kind of explaining to you and maybe busting the myths that you have. Like, people pay crazy stuff, and sometimes those things are very wrong. Yeah. And I think these experts are helping to kind of burst the bubble and say that maybe you should try to do this instead. Yeah. And of course, we talk about intermittent fasting, prolonged fasting. We talk about time of eating. We talk about what type of oils you should eat. There's many, many, many things that we are bringing to the table for people to just educate them to be healthier. And the early results are super promising. We have about hundreds of people who went through it. 90% of people have seen an improvement in the biomarkers by month 6. And these are usually biomarkers that your doctor told you 5 years ago that just fix them, and nothing happened.
Fascinating. I mean, this is really, really cool. So if I'm understanding you, basically you start with the diagnostics, that test that our listeners can get for free by just going to elo.health and entering biohacking secrets in like whatever the discount code is. So you get a lipid panel. I'm guessing like HDL, LDL, total cholesterol, maybe triglycerides.
VLDL, yep.
Yep. You measure homocysteine for inflammation, hemoglobin A1C for blood sugar regulation and insulin sensitivity. You got your iron, ferritin, B12, vitamin D, and then you take that the results of that test, you integrate it with wearables like the Oura Ring, the Apple Watch, perhaps Whoop, and so that you're able to take this intelligence and integrate it with your wearables, and then you use that to design smart supplements in order to and provide nutritional recommendations on the food selection and timing in order to actually allow people to see improvements in their biomarkers over time.
Exactly. And all, of course, then happens in an app that has a view into your health. on a daily basis. So I think we're the first ones now who really incorporate this whole thing into a very usable application on the mobile.
That's really cool. I like that you didn't miss the boat on, we know what happened with smartphone. You described that to us. You didn't miss the boat this time. You're like, not again, not again.
I won't do the not calling it smart nutrition again.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. So the first big leverage point is, at least, you've got the nutrition recommendations and you've got experts on your team that can help people there. On the supplement side, like what type of catalog of supplements do you guys have? And how do you choose, which of those ingredients go? Do you have iron supplements and B12 supplements and vitamin D? I would assume, are we using berberine for reducing A1C, or are we talking cinnamon? Maybe you could give us a little bit of insights on that. If someone's lipids are off, let's say their cholesterol's high or their LDL's really high, what do you guys give them, and how does all that work?
Yeah, really good question. So the catalog, we call it our formulary, is today 60 different active compounds. These are the 60 compounds that all have clinical trial studies done in a human setting. So we might not have some of the newest ingredients today because we wanted to keep this very scientifically sound and only pick the ingredients that have human trials, and not one, but also meta studies. So what our science team did in the last 2 years, they compiled all the science today done globally on supplements and these nutrients into one place. And actually in the app, you can see the studies that are defining your dosing and the ingredients you get in your pack, because they are, we have clinical trials that you belong to based on your age and gender and different factors and your biomarkers that were done to people like you with the outcome. So what do we have? We have, of course, the basics, the vitamins and the minerals. We have berberine, of course. We have, CoQ10. We have, choline, chromium, calcium. Many, and of course, also like grapeseed extract, green tea, some of these more herbal things. So it's a pretty vast array, and our system is basically dosing it to you based on this science. So we made these active ingredients in the pills that can be combined in a way that we get to closest possible right dosing for you. If you are a petite woman or you're a big burly man, it's a very different dosing we have to give you. So that's how it works. And we are now actually working today with many of the supplement companies that you and me know that are the big brands out there. These very innovative new companies with the one molecule or one product. We are now working to bring them into Elo. So we have a few already. Like in my case, in my pack, I have there are pills from a company, for example, called EWI. They are building a really good omega-3 product that we became a huge fan. And we now work together with them to add it into Elo package. So really the idea is to bring you the best of the science and bring you the best supplements in the market in a single pack that are optimized for you. And then you can track the outcomes on a daily basis, on a recovery side, on a quarterly basis, on your blood biomarker side. So it's a pretty potent platform we created. And it's really fun to see real people having real outcomes and being happy about the things they see. Because we all eat something like supplements or other things, and we all believe in them. But very few of us really know if they do anything to you.
Right. That's one of my friends. I go to a mastermind with him. He's in Utah, and in like Huntsville, Utah, and he makes a joke and he goes, "I don't feel anything from anything." You know what I mean? He's like, I take a lot of supplements, but I don't know what's doing what. You know what I mean? And I think there's a lot of people that resonate with that. They're like, oh, I take a fish oil because someone told me I should, but they don't know if they're taking something rancid that's from factory farmed fish and has been sitting in a hot warehouse for a year and a half before it goes in their body. So I love where this is going, and like that you can personalize it for, you said like a big burly man or like a petite woman. What do you do in the cases of a big burly man who now identifies as a petite woman? I'm just kidding.
The end of that case is still fairly small in our group.
Yeah.
So I can't say you in detail, but I bet my science team would be able to tell you exactly how to go about it.
Yeah.
It is because we keep in mind, we have real people in the mix. So yes, we have an AI system, but we have an AI that is then, helping a person to make the right decision. So as an example, just to give you an idea, we've been trying to be very rigorous on everything we do. And, yes, we do supplements today. I mean, it's not a big, we are a smart nutrition company. So we, of course, will do many different products going forward. And, every quarter we're going to have new products coming out in the future. But my point is that we do test every supplement pill that we buy in a third-party lab.
Nice.
We have had things we bought that we have returned and said, no, not good enough. We have done testing and validation on the testing because, at-home testing can be volatile compared to venipuncture. So we are getting very close now to the same results you get in the venipuncture. Sometimes, they differ because of my triglycerides. Are you fasted or not? Might have an impact. But really, the point is that trying to find the products that actually work for people. And there's a lot of, shady stuff happening in the supplement industry because the bottom line is that there's no regulation at all. It is less regulated than food today. And I don't think that's a great idea. But we try to be very, very transparent on everything we do.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think I'm loving seeing supplement companies testing and using third-party labs and even looking, more and more are making sure that they don't contain genetically modified organisms, that they don't contain glyphosate and pesticides and things like that can sneak in if you're using especially GMO sources. So that's fantastic. And guys, if you want to get that free blood test, you can go to elo.health, elo.health, and then enter discount code biohacking secrets. Ari, where do you see yourself kind of taking this over the next, let's call it decade, just to start at a tangible level?
Good time horizon, because if you want to build anything meaningful, it will take about a decade. Nothing happens in a few years. So last company I created, Better Doctor, was a doctor finder company. It took about 10 years to make it big. And now it's helping almost every American today to find a doctor at the back end. We are no longer a doctor finder app. But I think Elo is the company that I hope to be known for. And I think the founding team and the whole group behind it is super excited about what we are building, because the time is now. The time is now to make a difference in nutrition. People are fed up with eating another pill, statins or whatever you have. I think you could get the better outcome by using nutrition. We all know that. It's just difficult to do because you kind of know what to do, but you don't really know. You don't have the way to measure it. That's what we're trying to build at Elo. And we're trying to build a company that, you can sign up and it can help you to live, whatever, next 30, 40 years of great life. And we want to be there for you, be kind of this sort of a system that can put these things that you worry about on autopilot. So you don't need to worry about it. Kind of like, Obama is known to be saying many times that, and he has like one set of clothes, like one color suits, one color shirts, and he has 20 of those, and that's it. You don't need to think about in the morning what type of suit you put on. He eats the same breakfast every day. Same for us, I think, morals. But, if we can take away complexity of our life and make it automatic and trust in that system, it will give you more time with your loved ones and do things you really care about life. Because, nobody cares about counting calories or counting pills or buying pills or researching stuff. People want to make it easy. So that's what Elo is trying to do. And we hope to do it not just in supplements, but everything to do nutrition.
Yeah.
That's what we want to build. And it will take us many years, but, it's a big plan. And I think, we want to coin and claim the term smart nutrition for Elo. And I hope it will be like the smartphone or smartwatch.
I love it. And I see like so much potential with people being able to observe and track and quantify the progress that they're making, both in terms of like the biometric data and how they're feeling, of course, and how they're performing. So I think it's a great merger of the two. I'd also even suggest, I don't know if this is on your guys' radar, but I'm just throwing ideas out there. If you guys are able to gather data points on what prescription medications people are taking and leverage the scientific literature to say, hey, here are some natural supplements with similar pathways of action and targeted outcomes. You know what I mean? We're not your doctor. We're not going to tell you to get off anything, but these might be worth exploring. And if you discuss it with your doctor and it makes sense, this is something that we could potentially integrate into your pack.
Really great point. And today we collect all the data about the medication people have. Today we use it other around to make sure that we don't interfere with the medication that people have. Because I don't know if you know, but there are many cases the same, and the supplement might actually really interfere with the medication. So we built a system now to be able to automatically take away the supplements that are interfering. And we have found, because we also ask people, what supplements do you do today when onboarding phase? We have seen many people who are having medications and they are eating the very supplements that are interfering, and taking them away has been a big help for some people already. So That's a really important factor that we often forget, that many medications, almost all of them, are naturally occurring compounds. Many of them come from the nutrition already. They have been just turned into a molecule we can put in a form of a pill or capsule. Mm-hmm. So it's not different than, nutrition. We think that, it's a pill, it's a better. Come on. Nutrition as a whole is the factor that can really help us.
Yeah, no, this is fascinating. And guys, if you're enjoying this, if you want sort of a turnkey approach for optimizing your body from the inside based on your biomarkers, go to elo.health, discount code biohacking secrets. Ari, what else would you like to share with our audience that you're really excited to either talk about or, that you want to communicate, while we're here having this discussion?
Well, I think the one area that I think is super interesting is this, like I talked about already. We have kind of the surface level metric that are becoming very common. And then we are now starting to look inside. And yes, we've been doing blood work for a long time. And you mentioned really good, interesting ideas like hair follicles or saliva or breath or microbiome, your poop. Those are happening now. And we are looking and tracking very closely what's going on in every one of the fields. And I'm a small investor in many companies in space, so I have a pretty good viewpoint. And many of the things look super exciting. There's so much happening in the microbiome side, for example. Because, in the end, we have a gut brain. I mean, the gut is almost as important as the brain and so forth. But the science is still very early. Many of these things, like the microbiome, is so complicated that we at Elo didn't feel comfortable yet to go in that direction. So I think in the next 5 years, we're going to see a dramatic improvement. But what is going to happen, I think if you look at the future a bit, what is happening right now that really is exciting me the most is that we have, keep in mind, Oura, these are all working with LEDs. They are looking through your skin to your blood and looking your red blood cell movement or looking at different things to understand your heart rate and so forth. But that's not all. I mean, there are new devices popping up soon that are able to go deeper. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that in the next 10 years, this type of device, Apple Watch, for example, it will be able to track your blood biometric data in real time. Mm-hmm. And already there are devices that I've been testing that are in your wrist and are tracking your glucose and your blood pressure in real time. And when that happens, I don't think we will call it biohacking anymore. We call it something different, maybe longevity. But there will be a renaissance that we can't even fathom at the moment. Because once, and I don't know if you, Anthony, tested ever a glucose monitor in real time, but it is amazing when you see that you ate the pizza and you see the output in your body 15, 20 minutes after, and you learn to recognize that feeling of glucose going up or glucose crashing down. That's the bad feeling you want to avoid. And when that happens in a way that there will be hundreds of millions of people walking around with these devices, very few people are going to buy that bad food anymore. Because why would you put yourself in a position that something bad happened to you? Well, you want to go red every day many times? No, you're going to change. So I was using one company called Levels Health, their glucose monitor for a year. They use the Abbott device and they have built a nice app to do it. After the last month, I think the 11th month, I didn't really track anything. I didn't log anything. But my glucose barely ever went over 90. And 90 is like the ideal level. So whole month, my glucose didn't spike once because I learned how my body is reacting to different foods. So I cut rice, I cut potatoes completely, I cut rice, also like corn and certain things like that. And what I learned that most people maybe don't believe in, but I became a big believer, is that there is this idea called ancestral diet. What it means is basically what food your grandfathers and grandparents and grandmas and their parents ate will be the food that your body will likely tolerate quite well. And I'm from Finland, where you have snow 6 months a year. You eat fish and game. Really, even like wheat, we have rye bread, maybe if we are lucky, and so forth. Very narrow palate. And all the food I eat, I'm fine. And of course, there's a lot of dairy, a lot of cheese, stuff like that. So none of those spike me at all. But when I have rice that none of my ancestors ever have had, or corn, I spike wildly. So that idea is, in my opinion, interesting. And where it leaves us, the more we are studying now the glucose impact, the impact in real time to nutrition, I think we are learning that we are not unicorns or snowflakes. We might have 5 or 6 or 7 archetypes of people. And these type of people need to have different type of diet. And we can probably automatically validate that without even having a scary needle stick in your arm and so forth. But to me, that's kind of the interesting thing, that, this it's complicated, but it might not be as complicated as we think today. We just don't know yet, and we don't have enough N on these studies. But in the next few years, we will. And I'm seeing a big renaissance in this whole space.
100%. And I do think there's a lot of wisdom in like eating for, whether you want to call it like your mitochondrial haplotype or where your ancestors are from. And then also being conscientious of, how much sun exposure you're getting based on the seasons where you're at, because that has a big impact on your ability to process carbohydrates and dispose of glucose and, shuttle it into your muscles and liver. I also think, so there's a company called Base, their website's get-base.com, where, we have a podcast scheduled with them. It was supposed to be today, Lola Prego, but they gather some similar biomarkers, and it could also be a great strategic partnership for you guys, where they can then plug in with your AI and offer their customers who have gotten the blood tests some of what you guys offer on the nutrition and supplementation and guidance in that regard. So I wanted to put that out there. What are some of your favorite biohacks? You mentioned the continuous glucose monitor from Levels. You mentioned a continuous blood pressure monitor, which I'm not familiar with. We know you're wearing the Apple Watch, the Oura Ring, the Whoop Band, and these are just wearables. Anything is fair game here. If you've got an ice bath that you love, or an infrared sauna, or whatever it is for you, like what would you kind of say are your favorite overall biohacks that have helped you the most?
I think I would go with the sauna. As a Finn, I have a sauna in my Tahoe cabin. I have a sauna in my backyard in San Francisco here.
Traditional or infrared?
Always traditional. Ideally,
I like the traditional
wood fire sauna,
yeah,
electric.
There we go.
In the city, I have an electric one. Next thing I do now is really putting me in the right mode. Almost every Saturday I go surf in the water in San Francisco. It's very cold, of course, here. And then I'm part of this sort of surf club where they have a sauna on the beach. So you can go surf, you surf a couple hours, then you go back to get your stuff off and go to the sauna. I mean, that moment is bliss. I mean, maybe there's physical benefit, but the mental benefit is immensely good because your weekend starts from that moment. And I really miss that moment on my Saturdays. It doesn't matter if I go 5 a.m. to surf or whatever. As long as I get that, I go for the sauna, not for the surf. Even the waves are bad, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But over on the device side, I mean, there's one thing that I really got pretty excited, and I don't use it massively at the moment, but there's this idea of vagus nerve, and there's a buddy of mine who built a company to track the vagus nerve. It's basically the biggest nerve we have, and tracking it, you can understand your stressors and so forth. But they were building this device. I don't know if you can even buy it, but he gave us a test. They were recording the vagus nerve of a guru, one of the known gurus in India. basically, he has heart rate like 30, and he's in a deep meditative state. So he was able to record it and then put it in your vagus nerve in your neck and tried through that same input into your brain. And he was able to get me to a meditative state I never gotten before in 5 minutes.
Whoa.
By basically driving that same reaction into my vagus nerve, and it basically overrode all the other impulse that comes from my body in my nerve system. So that was a really interesting test that, it was a few years ago when I did it, but it's still in my mind every week at least, because there's something fundamental about this. Because, we all know meditation is really, really hard, but it's super beneficial. It really has maybe the biggest impact of mine, yet it's almost impossible for most people to do it properly and enough. What if there's a hack that we could basically override it a little bit and get into the state, even for 10 minutes a day, because the benefits are immense if you can do that.
Wow. What was the name of that company that your friend created that has the vagus nerve entrainment?
He has built a watch that is a vagus tracker today. I can send you the details, so we put it in the show notes. It's always hard to find these small companies on the Google. So.
Yeah, we'll throw that in the show notes as well. And then so sauna, especially wood-fired sauna, the vagus nerve entrainment, surfing, and which is, I would imagine, quite cold off the San Francisco coast, and then following that with sauna. What's the brand of the blood pressure monitor that you use?
I think I've been using the one from Omron. It's
Omron, yeah.
In the space.
I didn't know they
that's
made
not
a
the real
continuous
time. That's like a one-off. But I was talking about this very new type of watch people are developing. They're not yet. You can't buy them today, but they are in development. These are the ones that are glucose monitoring and blood pressure. And of course, you might have seen it. Apple noted that they were talking about having the blood pressure already next version, but it might be coming a bit later because they can't get the FDA approval. So the problem with the wrist and the pressure is you have to put it really tight on your wrist to be able to monitor properly. And it's a little bit uncomfortable tight. And most people, of course, they're not going to do that or not knowing how to do it. Maybe one hack that I think has been a big deal in my life, like you can see behind me, there's Alex Honnold on Half Dome doing his free solo. So rock climbing is my thing. I spend every week, many times on a rock or inside on a plastic climbing. And to me, it became my meditation many years ago, where I climb 4 times a week. I try to compete a little bit. I'm still old guy, but I try to perform a little bit. But what I do every night, I go sleep by climbing rock. So solve bouldering problems now, like 10 moves. And it's all about like dance on the wall. Like you have to memorize the moves and then you have to execute them right, exactly the right balance and weight. So every night I go sleep, I'm climbing a problem that I was trying to do earlier in the week. And often when I do it, then I go back to the climbing sim. Almost every time I can do it in the first try. So your body has learned to basically memorize every movement to a level that it's in your backbone. It's not in a mental state. It's like goes deeper. And it's like a pure flow state that you get in that moment. But I always fall asleep in 5 minutes or less. I have done the same thing now. I've been climbing a rock every night for more than 15 years. And it's been a hack like no other. I mean, I can be super stressed. I can be jet lagged. I can be annoyed. I can always do it in 5 minutes.
That's super cool. The two documentaries, Meru and Free Solo, are like two of my favorite documentaries, both amazing. If our listeners haven't checked them out, check out Meru, Meru, and then of course Free Solo that we mentioned. No, this has been fantastic. And guys, if you're listening to this and you're loving this conversation and finding it valuable, share it up and go to elo.health and grab your free blood test. Enter discount code Biohacking Secrets to claim that. Ari, Tulla, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a great conversation. I think it's going to help a lot of people, and I'm very excited for all of the technology and integrations that you're creating for that technology to kind of make this easier and turnkey while still scientifically validated for the regular folks who maybe don't want to spend so much time doing homework, but just want the benefits.
Well, thank you, Anthony. I mean, it's been really great to be here. And you reminded me of a few things I need to take a look. And I mean, I need to follow your your talks and website a bit more, because I mean you are trying stuff that I hadn't even heard about, and I need to get back on my game.
Oh, you're on your game, brother. You're crushing it. Well, thank you so much, guys. Share it up. Go to elo.health, enter discount code Biohacking Secrets, and we'll talk to you soon in another episode of the Biohacking Secrets Show.